Hey, welcome in to a live Locked On Lions squad show. Jake Riepma with you, and the Lions enter the bye week at 5-2.
Natalie, Kerwin here with FanDuel Sports Network. A much needed bye week for these Lions. A dominant win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and a defense that we've hyped up after that win, and one that we'll continue to talk about here today.
Bradford Banta here, 22-year NFL veteran. And just like Natalie said, after a dominant win, we're taking a bye to sharpen our claws because Minnesota in Week 9 is going to feel it.
One pride. It's the Lions Squad. Everything Detroit Lions every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Motor City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the roar of the Lions to the next great chapter, the Lions Squad Show starts now.
Yes, it does. Welcome one, welcome all. Glad to have you along for a live Locked On Lions squad show. Jake Riepma alongside Natalie Kerwin and Bradford Banta. Don't forget, today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's a crossover Thursday. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use that code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. What a show we've got lined up for you on the bye week. We'll recap that Monday night win. We'll have Nat's notes in the coach's corner, and shout out to our Rose Between Two Thorns, Natalie Kerwin, booking a big time guest. Colton Pouncy of The Athletic will join us later on in the program. So buckle up and dial it in, fire up that comment section, and let's get rolling. But Bradford, I kick it to you first. You were cracking me up per usual in the intro. Sorry, Nat. The reason I got to go over to Bradford is I had in my head, and I didn't tell either one of you this, what's Bradford going to open up with today? And sharpening the claws. I did not expect that one, and that's the one that got me. Sharpening the claws during the bye week.
I saw a little snicker on your part whenever I was going through my intro, but you got to do a little something to tease the audience. You got to grab them a little bit.
He's always got something.
What a better way to grab them than sharpening your claws. So I just, why not dive right into it? Hey, so well-deserved on the Lions' part.
I love it. And Natalie, I will bring you in on a not so football related topic because listen, it's the bye week. We're going to get into everything. We've got a great show lined up, but you and I mean, this is Locked On Lions, Locked On Detroit. We are in a state of shock, a little bit state of mourning because one of our childhood idols, Chauncey Billups, in the news for the worst reasons, arrested by the FBI. I know how I'm feeling, and I know we're not going to talk too much about it, but it's on the top of our minds.
I know it is on the top of my mind this morning. Even as I'm trying to prepare for this show, I feel like that's all I keep thinking about is, this is a guy that is an idol for us, right? Like helped lead this Pistons team to an 0-4 championship. He's someone that we look up to as one of the, a GOAT Detroit athlete, right? So to see this headline waking up to this morning, it's like, what? Like, I thought it was fake at first, that when you see something like that, you don't believe it's true. And so the more I've read about it this morning, it's just, I don't want to speculate. I'm still trying to learn more and more. And obviously we'll learn more as the day goes on and the week continues on through the weekend here. But it's tough to see. It's hard. And as our world continues to evolve and the sports gambling world continues to, become more and more prominent, and, me working for a network with, FanDuel in the name as well, and incorporating more and more of that, into our own broadcasts and things. It's becoming more and more relevant, and these things are becoming, more, I guess without getting into it, you're just hearing more and more of these cases. So it's hard to see. I hope the best out of this case. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So I don't know.
I can assure you that none of us have any illegal poker games going on for Locked On Lions squad show after hours. We do talk. The group chat's always going, and we talk about a lot of stuff, but there are no illegal poker games going on here. But Lions enter the bye week 5-2. We're still on that that high of the win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a very convincing win. And Bradford, I felt like, yes, we obviously recapped it and everything in our immediate post-game show, but you go back and watch some of the highlights and even look at a possession by possession case. I don't think it's a stretch to say there's a lot of meat left on the bones from the Lions, and to beat a first place team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who there's a very good chance you'll see again in the playoffs. They're a playoff team, barring some kind of crazy outcome the rest of the way. I think it's a pretty safe bet to say, look, this Lions team can play a lot better, especially given some of the unlikely, not heroes, but some unlikely sources that really were responsible for that win.
Yeah, I mean, we can jump immediately to, and we voiced it the other night, just talking about the no-name secondary. I mean, just a lot of guys who didn't start the season as starters and are now starting in the defensive backfield for the Detroit Lions. It was just an impressive performance, and a lot of people can come out and say that Baker Mayfield was off, but there was a reason he was off. And that was the Detroit Lions defense was making him off, with the addition of Aleem McNeil pushing the middle, having that pressure, and then having to double and triple team Aiden Hutchinson, and then putting the secondary in position to make plays is what Kelvin Shepherd did best. And I thought this was his best defensive game plan to date, given the circumstances that he was presented with. He and the staff came up with a plan that obviously functioned very, very, very well.
And I want to give a game ball, I feel like, to every guy in that room. I mean, I agree with you there, Bradford, where I feel like this was Calvin's best game. And Dan Campbell said it too this week, is that Calvin has continued to just grow as a coordinator and going from a player to a coach, and maybe he'll become a head coach at some point. Like, he's continued to show that he can take these groups of guys, even the group of, I guess, no names as we're calling them, these DBs that came out and proven themselves. Like, Calvin made it known to them, hey, I believe in you guys. You can take this opportunity and you can shine. And that's exactly what they did. And they were able to throw Baker Mayfield off of his game. It wasn't his best night to begin with, but the Lions secondary had a big part in that. So I think what the Lions were able to display on that side of the ball was great. What they were able to do with Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, that 78-yard touchdown run, we keep talking about that. He did win Angry Runs this week on Good Morning Football, if you guys saw that. He got so much love. So I did have to bring that up because that is one of my favorite shows and favorite segment of the week to always tune into.
Well, you're featured on it.
What's that?
I said you were featured on it, so it should be your favorite.
Obviously, yes. So I always like to give them a lot of love. And they obviously have a lot of love for him too. But the Bucs had no answer for Gibbs and the 2 touchdowns and, the 218 total yards he had on Monday night, a career night for him. So the Lions did a really good job at making it a statement win for them now heading into this bye week. And they have a lot to hang their hat on. So the defense being the top of that.
Absolutely. It's the live Locked On Lions squad show. If you're just joining us, if you're listening to the audio only version, thanks so much for tuning in. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, make sure you like today's video and subscribe. We've got Colton Pouncy coming up in just a few minutes. But guys, to tie a bow on, I don't want to say the first half of the season by any means, because mathematically that's just not the case. But with the natural break here in the bye week, I think you feel really good at 5-2. And again, without beating a dead horse, knowing that this team really is progressing and can play better than what they've seen. Offensively, we started to get into Jahmyr Gibbs and how good he's looked. And maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later on a deeper level. But with the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs, and not even emergence because we knew what we had coming in here, but just maybe a little bit of a reallocation in terms of the touches in the backfield, with David Montgomery still being that awesome counterpunch, but maybe being used a little bit less frequently. Bradford, do you think that's kind of the writing on the wall with this Lions offense?
Yeah, it really starts with those two, talking about Gibbs and Montgomery. Do not discount what Jared Goff has done. Do not discount what Amon-Ra St. Brown has done, what Laporta and that tight end crew has done, and the offensive line. Honestly, it starts with the offensive line and their play, making the holes for Gibbs, and then keeping Jared Goff's uniform clean at the end of the game. But I am going to be curious to see, once we start getting into the month of November, and once we start playing our away games, which are going to be outside, and I haven't delved too much into the schedule beyond Minnesota, and then how many cold weather games we have left. But I feel that is when Montgomery is going to show his stuff. And not to discount what Gibbs can do, because he can definitely do it. I know that Dan is definitely going to have these guys in the right footwear. Let's say if they play in a cold weather, sloppy game, he will have them in the right footwear to make the appropriate cuts, and there's no slipping involved. Because, I mean, granted, that is Gibbs's game. But I feel, and this is just me, I feel that the second half of the season is whenever Montgomery is going to start showing his stuff, because he still has, for this season, for the amount of playing time that he has had, he has a ton of tread left on the tire. And it's going to benefit the Lions, himself, and the Lions himself, and further his career, just because of the amount of reps that Gibbs is getting. But I think that Montgomery is going to be a factor in the second half of the season, more so than he was in the first half.
No doubt, no doubt. We'll continue to break it down, but coming up in just a second, we've got Colton Pouncy of The Athletic joining the live Locked On Lions squad show. Can't wait to pick his brains on all things Detroit Lions, and I'm sure Natalie, Kerwin will have to mix in some Spartan questions there as well. So don't go anywhere. That's coming up on the other side of this ad break. It's the live Locked On Lions squad show. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today, because every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. You don't want to miss the excitement this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add a little more excitement to your football experience. You just pick more or less on player projections. Maybe it's Josh Allen's passing yards. No, maybe it's Jared Goff's passing yards. We got to edit that copy a little bit. Amon-Ra St. Brown's receptions. Whatever it is, you get quick, easy payouts, and you can make your lineup in under a minute. My favorite part, PrizePicks added stacks. So if you want to ride with a player, you can select their pass yards, rush yards, or touchdowns all in one lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use that code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. All right, back with you on the live Locked On Lions squad show, and our very own Natalie Kerwin securing a big-time guest, Colton Pouncy of The Athletic. So, Natalie, I turn it over to you.
Hey, everybody. Colton, great to see you. Thank you for being able to hop on here so last minute today and be so generous during your bye week, which I know probably trying to take some time to yourself here, but being able to hop on our show, we really appreciate it. And I'm trying to think, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, but good to see you at least digitally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a minute. No, when you hit me up, I was like, you know what? Me and Natalie, when was the last time we saw each other? Maybe like a couple of years. I don't know. It's been a minute, but we go way back to Spartan Beat. So, our time together back then, I was like, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if it's a bye week. Whatever Natalie wants, Natalie gets.
Hey,
that's our motto too. So
yeah.
Hey, and that's how we roll on this show too. I feel like I've gotten Jake and Bradford into the same mindset. So Got them under that same spell. No, all jokes aside, yeah, Colton and I have known each other since our Michigan State days. He is the athletic beat writer for the Detroit Lions right now. Previously worked on the Michigan State football beat, and you did some basketball as well too, right, Colton?
Yeah, for sure.
So you got experience all over here in the state of Michigan, University of Missouri grad. So excellent writer, love reading your stuff. And so, you started here, was it back in 2022?
Yeah, back in 2022. That was Campbell's second year. That was the year they started off like 1-6 and then won 8 of their final 10 games, finished 9-8. So I've not seen a losing Lions team in my time on the beat. So, a lot of people say I'm the good luck charm. I wouldn't say that, but people are saying that.
Some might say.
Staying on the beat, Colton. You're staying on the beat, pal.
Yeah.
You know what? I think we just need you here forever. Okay. Is that cool?
I think so. Yeah. I love it here. I'm down for that.
So with that being said, you being here then most of the Dan Campbell era, what do you make of this Detroit Lions team and what you've seen so far this season?
Yeah. I mean, just from when I got here, it's been kind of night and day with the talent upgrades, where they started, again, starting off 1-6 and just kind of figuring themselves out and playing as one and learning how to win those games back then. And to see them where they are now, like you just kind of expect what we see year in, year out. So getting off to a 5-2 start, I think when you saw the schedule come out in May and you see Kansas City and Baltimore and going to Cincinnati against Joe Burrow and those boys and even Green Bay starting with them at Lambeau, I think you're kind of like, all right, well, if we can win 4 of those games, like you're feeling pretty good. But they've won 5, and I know circumstances have changed a little bit. Burrow didn't play, and the Ravens aren't kind of the team we thought they would be. But still, to start off 5-2 in that 7-game stretch, which looked pretty difficult, again, back in May, I think that's a really good start. Obviously, some coordinator turnover. There are a lot of questions if those guys would be the right guys for the job. I think they've proven why Dan Campbell went with them. Kelvin Shepherd's been awesome. John Morton has done a good job and has this offense scoring 30.7 points a game, which is third in the NFL. So just based on what I've seen so far, it feels like the same Lions team I've covered over the years. They've got their stars making plays. The defense is playing really well. So I'm not really surprised by anything I've seen. I think this is kind of what I expected from this group.
You mentioned Kelvin Shepherd and, what we just saw from the defense, specifically on Monday Night Football, holding the Bucs to just 9 points. Like, this is a banged up secondary. And I think we all thought going in, hey, the offense has got to carry this one because, 7 DBs were unavailable. And it's like, okay, a lot of no-name guys that people don't know are going to be out there, like guys that did not start the season. We don't even know their stories. And they went out there and made a statement. What does that say, I guess, from your perspective of what you've learned about Kelvin Shepherd and more so just, analyzing this defense, who they are at their core? You came out with a great article this week. So I just want you to try and just explain to us what you see from a defensive perspective with this Lions group.
Yeah, I think one thing Kelvin does a great job at is putting guys in a position to succeed. And that's, not only his stars, but guys that he, just met, guys that signed like 2 weeks ago and joined the practice squad and now are playing in significant games on Monday Night Football. So he just has a really good feel for what guys can and can't do. And I think we saw that in a game like Monday night where, hey, a guy that was signed a couple weeks ago, we don't need you to be a star. You don't need to be a lockdown corner. Just make the plays when they come your way. And I think he asks his stars to do more in games like that. So we see, Aiden Hutchinson has 12 pressures in a game like that. I think, a lot of people love the sacks and I get it, but that pressure can really affect the quarterback. And on some of those throws where you see Nick Whiteside signed a couple weeks ago, batting down the ball, he had 3 PBUs on 2 or maybe even 3 of those. You see pressure on Baker and he has to throw the ball out quicker than he wanted to. I think you see kind of this defense playing as one, the rush and the coverage working together. And that was sort of the game plan. Shep played heavy man coverage against the Bucs. Baker is not a great quarterback against man coverage. So that was a good game plan by him to kind of stick with what they do best and let your stars kind of take care of things. And yeah, you got the Legion of Whom out there. That's what they're calling the secondary, all those backups out there, which I thought was a great name. I've been laughing at it like the last couple of days. But he did, like, those guys they answered the bell when called upon. And that's something Shep told him. He's like, you hear all these things about overnight celebrities. And he's like, I don't really subscribe to that theory. To me, it's like, that was just a night that you were introduced to this guy that has been playing well behind the scenes. So anyone that's playing for this defense, there's a large level of trust from this coaching staff, from Kelvin Shepherd, and that they can make a play when called upon. And that's what you saw on Monday night. That was really impressive, especially, I think as that game's playing out and, the offense is kind of struggling a little bit, not at least playing up to their standards. You're kind of like, well, they need to turn this around because the defense can't keep this up all night. And then they did. They kept it up all night. So to hold that Tampa team, and I know they're missing some guys, but to hold them to 9 points, have Baker Mayfield kind of shook from start to finish. It looked like he was seeing ghosts out there sometimes. That was sort of the game plan, and it worked to perfection. So really got to tip your cap to that defense and the Legion of Whom out there.
I love it. Colton Pouncy is with us on a live Locked On Lions squad show. And Colton, it's the bye week, so I think it's okay for a little bit sidetracking into some story time. So I want to go into the time machine and the way back machine. My first introduction to Colton Pouncy, this was when I was back at 97 Won the Ticket, and it was August. And you're kind of looking for things to talk about, and the Lions happened to be on Hard Knocks. And we would watch every single episode. And we're like, this is great. This is the behind the scene footage we need. It's August. We can do tons of radio segments about this. And I'll never forget just being dialed in for one of those episodes. And I hear a beat writer's phone go off and my skin started crawling for the beat writer. We've all been in those press conferences and oh my God. And my face is getting warm just talking about it. So I hope I'm not bringing up the worst of memories, but can you, for maybe somebody that was watching Hard Knocks that saw the phone go off during Dan Campbell's press conference, that was obviously yours, but take it away for a little story time here.
Yeah, I love honestly, this is a great story. It really helped introduce me to Lions fans, I feel. So I was hired in like June 2022. So that was my first year on the Lions beat. There wasn't much going on when I was first hired. So really training camp was my first time being around like the coaches and players. And so obviously early starts for those training camp practices. They practice at 8:30. Campbell speaks at 8 every morning, at least back then. So, I set my alarm for 6:30. I'm waking up. I'm like, I'm going to pack my lunch, first day of school vibes, that was kind of the deal. And my daily alarm for non-training camp practices goes off at like 8:15. I enjoy a little bit of sleep, but 8:15 is when I had my daily alarm set. And even though I got up early, I forgot to turn off my 8:15 alarm. And I wasn't even thinking. So I'm up and at it, get to the training facility early. I'm sitting in my seat, front row, 8 a.m. Campbell's talking, 15 minutes in. And everyone knows that alarm. It's like the loud one that just like everyone has PTSD from. Just instantly goes off. And Campbell's telling a great story, I think, about his time in Miami, too. So I felt really bad. Like he was in the middle of a great answer. And all of a sudden he goes, "What the?" And he holds out his hand like that. And he like is staring me down. And I'm just like, oh my God, first day, this cannot be happening.
You're like, I'm done.
Yes. I'm like, I'm cooked. The Athletic's going to fire. No, I'm just kidding. But it goes off and he immediately starts laughing and the whole room starts laughing. I'm like, okay, I think I'm okay. And he goes, "What's your name? What's your name?" And I'm like, "Colton." He's like, "Never going to forget about you, Colton." And then the whole room starts dying. And so he had some fun with it. And honestly, like I give him a lot of credit for that because there are some coaches that would actually be pretty upset or mad. Maybe the coach before him here in Detroit. But yeah, it's just to have that be my introduction to Lions fans was pretty funny. And a friend of mine texted me like 2 days ago and asked me if I could send him like the clip because he wanted to show his buddies in Texas. I had a friend in Illinois. She was at like a minor league baseball game and she said the guys in front of her were watching the clip in front of her at like a King County Cougars game. And I'm just like, she sent me like a picture of it and I'm like, that's amazing. Just a Hard Knocks clip. So the Hard Knocks producers came up to me and they're like, "Hey, congrats on making Hard Knocks." Like right after that happened. I was like, all right, cool. It's
kind of genius because you're a living legend moving on. Like that's like one of the most memorable moments of Hard Knocks.
The funniest thing is people thought I planned that. I'm like, why would I plan that? Who in their right mind?
Why would I set myself up for that? Like,
to look
Dan,
like an idiot.
It could have gone the opposite way, as you said. Like Dan actually could have gotten mad.
Exactly. But he's super cool and he had some fun with it. And he actually apologized like a couple weeks later. I was like, dude, you do not have to apologize. That was funny. So he's just down to earth and can poke fun like that. So yeah, it's been awesome covering him. He's super grounded. What you see is what you get. with players, with media. So it's a lot of fun covering him.
Gosh, that's amazing. Now, do you feel like you have PTSD from it and you're constantly making sure every press conference you have your alarm turned off?
At least every training camp. Like when training camp starts, I make sure like the night before I even have some fun with it. I'll like tweet all my alarms off for 8:15. So yeah, for sure.
Oh my
I love
gosh.
it.
Oh, to have a repeat performance though. What do you think?
One of these days, maybe it'd be fun to run it back. We'll see.
Yeah, run it back just for the
Yeah.
heck of it.
Yeah.
Remember me? Remember me?
Yeah, for sure.
So
Colton,
cool.
I wanted to, I'm sorry, just to pick your brain a little bit about roster construction. You know, it's probably a popular bye-week topic in and of itself. And then you add the trade deadline coming up in the NFL on November 4th. Is that something, you know, that you're hearing? It's that rumor season where, oh, you know, this player's on the move. And there was the Trey Wingo news drop with Max Crosby. Obviously, that's a guy that Lions fans have always kind of held up to that pedestal because of his time at Eastern Michigan. But what's kind of the NFL buzz and then through a Lions lens leading up to the NFL trade deadline?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how active a trade deadline this will be. Like the NFL isn't historically like, obviously you have the NBA trade deadline,
Right.
MLB, you see a lot of stars get moved then. NFL isn't usually like that, even though there's always rumors of guys being available, whether it's Trey Hendrickson or Crosby. Those guys usually end up staying with their team. So I'm not sure if we're going to see the big move. But for the Lions, you know, Gianna Rossini at the Athletic, she reported that the Lions are kind of in the market for a pass rusher and they're making some calls. Obviously last year they went out and got Zadarius Smith. That was more felt like out of necessity just because Hutch was down and Davenport was down and you just needed someone to kind of stop the bleeding and get some pressure on the quarterback. This year, obviously, they're in a better spot. Hutch is playing out of his mind. He leads the NFL in pressures. You know, Al-Qadim Muhammad has been amazing. I don't think anyone really expected this from him, but he's up. I think he's 12th in pressures and has 5 sacks so far, something like that. So they've been pretty solid with their pass rush, and they're going to get Davenport back sometime after the bye. But if you can get like maybe a Matthew Judon, I think he is in Miami right now, if I believe. He's somewhere. If you can get like maybe just a depth piece, just to some insurance in case someone does go down, because Davenport has dealt with injuries in his career, and there's a chance that he might not hold up the course of the season. So if you can get another guy in there that can maybe defend the run or give you a little extra pass rush juice from where you are now, I think that would help. Obviously, the secondary is pretty hurt. So if you can get an extra cornerback, maybe that helps. But I also feel like they like what they have and the ability to move Amik Robertson out to corner from the nickel position. Rocky Scene, they signed him for depth, and he's played pretty well. They probably like what they have there, but I'm just thinking about, you don't want a repeat of last year. If there's a way to bring in some extra help while you're healthy, I think that's just, you know, a smart, proactive move if there's someone out there that makes sense.
Yeah, Colton, I have a question for you. Given I didn't see this one coming, but kudos to the Philadelphia Eagles and I'm sure they were in constant contact with Brandon Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think with him being a Michigan man, you know, do you think Brad Holmes possibly reached out to Graham to be like, hey, I know you're retired, but are you interested? You know, we there's a possibility of us having a spot here for you, you know, just to get those thought juices flowing, because, you know, from a general manager's position and with as much as roster construction and ideas that they have, those ideas have to keep generating on basically a 24-hour basis, because you have to look out for what's best for the team.
Yeah.
Do you think that phone call was made? Or do you think there was any behind-the-scenes communication with Graham?
That's a pretty good question. I really thought about that. I mean, I think to some extent the Lions say, "Hey, we're going to turn over every stone." So I imagine, hey, if they think there's a chance he wants to come back, and I don't know his contract situation, if the Eagles like own his rights, whether he decided to come back or if he was on a 1-year deal and just retire then and there. So I wonder the situation there. I don't really know that, but if there's a chance and he had an inkling to return and you can get him in the fold, maybe they make that call. Maybe if Brad has that insight, he would make the call. To me, he seems like a guy that was kind of Philly or bust if he was going to return. He was still doing like a Philly podcast and still was out there.
Yeah.
So he's probably had that itch to return at some point. But that's an interesting concept. I never really thought about that. But yeah, he does have the Michigan tie. So there's that.
Colton, I want to throw something at you, and it's something I keep reading and hearing about. Jameson Williams.
Mhm.
People are freaking out right now. They're like, he's not receiving a lot of targets. Oh, he's putting stuff on his Instagram story. He doesn't seem happy. What do you make of it? Not that we're trying to speculate, but what do you make of this whole thing with Jameson? Because people are freaking out.
Yeah. I struggle with athletes on Instagram sometimes because you'll think it's like, oh, he's not happy with his playing time, or he's not happy with he's not getting the ball. And then it'll just be like, oh, I was just having some fun. I was just posting for fun. So I think the timing of that probably speaks to that. If you want to connect the dots, I won't have a problem with it. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he's had 2 or fewer catches in like 5 of his 7 games or something like that. So not ideal for a guy that you just paid a lot of money to a few weeks ago. And I understand why people are maybe like, hey, can we work to give him the ball some more? And I'm in that same camp. I think he's a good player. And what I watched from him in training camp a few months ago is I saw a player whose route tree was expanding. I thought he was ready for more targets, more touches. And John Morton, his OC, is a former receivers coach. He even said, I think he's going to have a breakout year. And then to see kind of the lack of production, I understand, some of the confusion out there. I will say there are games where they have tried to get him the ball, like that Cleveland game. They were targeting him a lot on those downfield shots, and they were there against a team that plays a lot of man coverage, and that's where JMO can win on the outside with the speed. They just weren't connecting, whether it's pressuring Goff's face. If he has like half a second longer to rip that, it's, a couple of those are touchdowns, things like that. A missed block here or there, that can all affect like a go route when you need time to kind of let that one rip. There are other games like the Chiefs game where they got him involved, and that was probably his best game of the season. So I do think production-wise, it's going to be a little bit boomer bust. But when you look at what he does in the structure of this line's offense, where his speed is going to command, extra attention every time he runs a go route, it's going to open stuff up for Saint over the middle with those digs and crossers, and Laporta doing the same thing over the middle. That's sort of the structure of this offense. Let guys, create in space when they get the ball after the catch. Let JMO run off DBs. And we see that working. So it's almost boom, boom. If you look at it that way, JMO's either going to get the big play or the big touchdown, or other guys are going to eat underneath. So, it's still working within the structure of the offense, but I agree. I think he should get more targets. That's something I'm sure they're going to kind of look at the bye when they self-scout here and try to come up with some answers to fix it.
Yeah, and the Instagram following that, I do not envy you as a beat writer having to break stories following that. It's like in radio, we get the luxury of this is what's happened and just reacting to it. But that said, kind of obviously it's a ways out yet, and you just alluded to it. We're in bye week now, so not necessarily a deep dive preview wise, but divisional game up next for the Lions, welcome in the Minnesota Vikings. Have you been surprised with the way the Minnesota Vikings season has played out? Obviously the McCarthy injury is not ideal. But just kind of your early sense on that matchup with Lions and the Vikings coming up after the bye.
Yeah, I think, going back to May when the schedule came out, like you're looking at, I'll say that 3-game stretch coming out of the bye, like Minnesota, Washington, and then at Philly. You're kind of looking at that and you're like, that's going to be pretty tough. Those are 3 good teams, a Super Bowl winner, a team that beat you in the playoffs, and then a 14-win Vikings team. But that said, I thought Sam Darnold was really good last year, and they moved on from him. And a lot of people were just like, well, yeah, this is what, of course, going to move on. They have a first-round pick in J.J. McCarthy, and I totally understand that. But that's his first year as a starter, and I wondered how he would look. Didn't look great when he was healthy, and now he's got, the ankle injury that's kind of lingered here, and almost wonder if that's more of a soft benching at this point, if they feel he's not ready. And you got Carson Wentz playing a lot for you, and, Carson is a journeyman at this point in his career, and Kevin O'Connell is sort of a quarterback whisperer in some ways, but he's not Sam Darnold, that's for sure. So I kind of wonder how this offense is going to look when they have to face a Lions secondary that's going to get some dudes back. Brian Branch is going to be back from suspension. Kirby Joseph sat with a knee injury before the bye. I imagine he'll be back with 2 weeks to rest when they play Minnesota. Terry Arnold told me he wants to come back for that Minnesota game. Maybe the coaches try to be smart with him, be like, dude, you've already left 3 games and have missed a couple. Let's just please be chill, be cool for a little bit. So we'll see about that. But if the Lions have their secondary back and they're having to play against Carson Wentz and the pass rush is getting home, that could be an ugly day for the Vikings. I think the Lions are just a more talented team, and that's at home. So I imagine they would handle business. But Hey, the Vikings are stingy, man. They sometimes find ways to win those games, so I wouldn't rule them out.
All right. Well, we'll see. Divisional matchups, I feel like everything's always off the table. You never know. The NFC North, it's a tough division. Lions sitting in second right now, but I feel like this bye week, it's coming at the perfect time, and hopefully just these guys can rest, come back from injury, and continue to just build week by week. So I want to end this segment with just a couple fun rapid fires for you, Colton. Are you ready?
Oh, no. Let's do it.
Oh, this is good. It's just a few. Okay. First one. Favorite touchdown celebration from the guys so far?
Ooh, that's a good one. Like over the years, or does it have to be this season?
I mean, if there's one from the last couple years that comes to mind first, you can do that. But I feel like they've had some good ones already.
Yeah. So I really love the Spider-Man, Superman one that they just did in this game. I'll say that for this year. My favorite one they've done is probably Saints like headstand. I thought that was super cool. And I think someone made like an ice sculpture of that like a couple years ago. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's incredible.
Made a cake.
A cake too. Yeah. Maybe that's what it was.
And a corn maze. Did you see that?
Corn maze too. Yeah. So that one's iconic for a lot of reasons. So I got to go with that one. And it's so funny watching like Saint and Gibbs in the locker room. Like you can see them like mapping out their celebrations together because they just know they're going to score. Yes. You see them in the corner. They're just like looking at TikToks and like, yeah, we should do that. I've asked them about it before. And like, yeah, we just scroll TikTok, look for inspiration. So
I always wonder that. I'm like, how, like they just always have something. And so I'm just curious, like, are they texting about this beforehand? But you're 100%. Watching the magic happen like before. Most underrated player to interview, like that's surprisingly cool that we don't hear about.
Ooh. I love DJ Reader. He's super insightful. And like anytime I need something from him, he's great. And whether it's after a win, after a loss, he's the same demeanor. So he's like one of my go-to quotes. I'll say, and maybe this isn't a surprise nowadays, but when Jack Campbell first got here, he was a little quiet, a little shy. He has really come out of his shell in the last couple of years, especially this year. He's celebrating more on the field. Like he did a little seatbelt celebration when he broke up a pass in the end zone this last game. But he's awesome in the locker room. Like I love talking to him. He's funny. Like he jokes with me. We have a good relationship. So I love talking to him too. I think those two are probably my go-tos.
Okay. Two more. Who's going to win between Michigan State and Michigan this weekend?
Oh man. I mean,
Nat, I'm proud of you for you in a while before you brought in Michigan State.
I did. I told you something would come up, but I had to wait for the last 20 minutes.
I'll tell you this: Jonathan Smith needs this one more than Michigan does. I'll say that. But I think MSU is just in some trouble right now, so I'll go Michigan. Sorry to the Sparties out there.
Well, can I interject real quick?
That. So one of us on this podcast likes that.
There you go. What about your Missouri Tigers? I mean, College Game Day's there. If you would have told me Missouri Vanderbilt would be the College Game Day, I mean, how are you handling the success? And your coach might be on the move. He's rumored.
No. Don't put that out there. Don't put that out there. I don't want that energy out in the universe. No, you're right. He might be. I'm savoring this Mizzou season. When the Lions played the Chiefs a couple weeks ago, I actually drove to Columbia for that Mizzou-Alabama game. Happened to be their one loss this year, of course. But they played well. They almost won it in the end. But I feel really good about the Tigers. Vandy, I know, look, they're national darlings. You know, they got game day coming to their campus. It's going to be a shame to, like, you know, hand them an L on a day like that. But, I mean, as long as they prepare themselves for it. You know what? They're in Nashville. They can just hit Broadway after the loss. You know, they'll still have a good time. So yeah, you're right. We'll
just have Missouri go drop the uprights into the river. I mean, that's all they got to do.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to that. This should be fun. My coach isn't going anywhere. He's going to sign a lifetime contract. I'm waiting on it. Draw it up.
Lifetime. Boom. We've said it here. Colton, how are you spending your bye week? You chilling? We relaxing?
A little bit. The Athletic is putting me to work a little bit. So we have some initiatives we're doing here that I got to kind of take care of before I officially start my bye. But I'm going to go to Chicago. I grew up like Chicago suburbs. So I'll go home, see some family, some friends, recharge, probably still watch football because I'm sicko, but it'll be nice. And come back sometime Sunday night or Monday morning before Campbell talk. So it'll be nice. Like, I think the bye came at a good time for the players and for the media. We're kind of feeling a little bit. So it'll be nice to kind of, you know, recharge the batteries a little bit.
Awesome. Well, so well deserved. You were on here much longer than I even told you were going to be, but we just enjoyed talking to you, dude.
I'm just a yapper. It's all good.
But so are we. Like we different topics come up and then we just go on a tangent. And we're like, how did we even get here? That's why you were a perfect guest to come on, because you fit in right in with this group.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Seriously, we really appreciate it. And yeah, giving us your insights and all that, and just enjoy the bye week. Seriously.
Yeah, I'll try for sure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Colton.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Colton. See you later.
Bye.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout. We got that was awesome, by the way. Great get by you, Nat. And we'll have to definitely do that again. We'll do a quick Nat's notes and then wrap it up with Coach's Corner on a live Locked On Lions Squad show. Today's episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by GameTime. Far and away the best way to buy tickets to a live event is GameTime. The NFL season is back. There's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. And let's be honest, sometimes getting tickets can be the worst part. It's a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's very frustrating. That's why I use GameTime. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans. GameTime is fast and easy. It's backed by the GameTime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've ever bought tickets. So download the GameTime app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create that account, and it's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the GameTime app today. All right, cruising right along. That was awesome. Colton Pouncy with us on the live Locked On Lions Squad show. And now we'll have a little Nat's notes and then Coach's Corner, and then we'll just cruise right along.
Okay, perfect. I know, guys, he's great. I feel like we could have kept talking to him too. Like I feel like he provides such good insight and stories, and the Hard Knock story just gets me every time. Every time. I just think that's hilarious. But yeah, he's great. And we'll just get into a little bit of Nat's notes. I feel like we touched on some of the topics, not a ton to update on here as we head into the bye week, but he alluded to it a little bit as we go over just some of the injury updates and availability snapshot as we head into this bye week. But the Lions are expected to get Brian Branch back, of course, after this one-game suspension, not playing in Monday Night Football, getting Kirby Joseph back, and possibly Terrion Arnold as well. So that will help a depleted secondary. But as we saw, this secondary group is maybe deeper than we expected. Going into this week as well, I think we expect Dan Campbell's bye week tone to be more so, guys, rest up, get ready, but also, keep your mind, focused and not stray away from the job at hand. And I guess I want to throw this to you, Bradford. When there is a break in the schedule, is it hard for, I guess this goes for any sports too. Is it hard for guys to it's always good to get a break, but having that as well, is it hard to sometimes get off track a little bit and then come back and be in the same spot you were? You know what I mean? Do you think sometimes it can not, you know what I'm trying to get at here?
Yeah, no, you're trying to say kind of knock you off the tracks. Change
a little
track.
bit.
Change tracks.
Because they're up here right now. So you just hope while they're feeling good, you hope they can come back against the Vikings at the same spot.
Yeah, you're performing at a high level right now. You get a little bit of a downer, so your attitude takes a little bit, you deflate a little bit, and you hope you come back and get inflated back up and perform at the same level that you were performing at before you left for the bye. No, it's a legitimate question, and it is a worry for every coach that heads into this type of time off in the middle of the season. One is, once you cut the guys loose, what are they going to be doing? That is a major concern, and you don't want to get the midnight call saying, hey, player X, just got picked up for, and you're just like, oh my God, you're just, you beat your head against the wall. You want all the players to remain focused, and you want them to have, basically, you want them out of the water, but at the same time, you still want that foot in the water, and you don't want to be completely dried off. If I'm making any sense there, you want it, you want them still engaged in what's going on, because I mean, no matter how you cut it up, they still have 10 games left to play of the regular season. So they're not even halfway done yet. We can say the bye week coming at a great time, and there still has to be a push that has to be made. And, so that's why I think the month of November is going to be ever so important. And then November 9th game versus the Vikings. They have to come out and they have to make a statement again. And Dan's going to tell them that in the final team meeting before they break, because I think it's written in the collective bargaining agreement. I think the players have to have a minimum of 4 days off, like complete days. And was that 96 hours of complete? That's pretty good math on my part, if you don't mind me saying. So, but they have to have so many hours off completely where they don't even go into the complex unless they are injured. Then they can go in and get treatment. And then depending on the severity of the treatment, how much that player shows up, there's a whole lot of moving parts behind that go on behind the scenes. But as a coach, that is your biggest worry, your biggest worry is that they're not going to come back focused. And I believe that this team has enough leadership in the locker room that if any younger players or players that have not been around this team in recent seasons, the leadership is going to be like, hey, get your ass back on track. Let's go. Because you are underperforming during practices. And if you underperform during practice, you're going to underperform during the game. Now, the secondary that played this past game, they're going to have Branch coming back, probably Kirby Joseph coming back, having who knows how many of the starters are going to be coming back. So that's where you have to keep that group hungry. And just like we alluded to earlier in the show, Kelvin Shepard and Colton even did it as well. You put those particular players in position to make plays. So if they ate versus Tampa Bay, talking about the what did they call them? I know we've been calling them no-name second.
Legion.
Yeah, the Legion of Whom.
The Legion of Whom. Hey, more aptly put. I love that. I love that even better.
That was so good.
That even better. Yeah. So, the Whom players, you got to have them wanting more. And I talked about it last show with Art Millette. We had him in New Orleans, and he and Justin Hardy would go at it. Like one would be active, the other would be on practice squad. The next week it would be switched. Those two would be going at it because we would have Art or Justin at a specific place on, let's just say, the scout team. And then he would move himself over to where he could go against Art or Justin. So, and then he would move the other guy over. And I'd be just like, dude, what are we doing? Coach, we're competing. Okay. So I know what Art is made of. And Art has been around the game long enough to be like, okay, it's time for me to show my wares again. And I need to make a home in Detroit. And I'd say as a whole, that group, the Whom group, I feel like I'm in a Dr. Seuss book, but but that group wants to make a home in Detroit, and they want to fulfill whatever role they can to stay here. So that's a roundabout way to answer your question, Nat. I apologize because I started rambling.
No, but it all makes sense. It does. And, you talk about guys that this is a group that collectively they are focused, and there are a lot of leaders on this team. And I guess that leads me to my last point in this section here is a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. He is a guy you look at as a leader. He's a guy that's consistently focused, who's battled injuries, who's come back really stronger than ever. And that's the point I want to make here. Through week 7, Colton talked about it as well. He's first in total pressures generated, first in QB hurries, first in strip sacks, and tied for 4th in sacks right now. Is it fair to say, to start the chatter on him right now for Defensive Player of the Year? I guess I'll throw it to you, Jake.
Sure, why not? If I had a vote, yeah. I think so. He plays at such an impactful position where his big time plays changed the game defensively. And I've always said that about defensive ends or just pass rushers in general. They can sometimes disappear for 49 plays, but if on that 50th one, they have a strip sack and, the ball's out and the team wins the game, that's what you talk about. And it's not their fault. It's just the nature of the position. And I would get in heated debates here in Dallas about Micah Parsons, how teams would scheme against him. And he wasn't as impactful for so many plays, but when the lights were the brightest, he would make a play. And not accusing Aiden of that by any means, but I think his position and his impactful plays changing the outcomes of games certainly bodes well for an honor like Defensive Player of the Year. So it's not taking anything against Aiden Hutchinson at all. And I think he's deserving, especially if he keeps the pace up.
Yeah, I know it's early to say that. I just think where he's at right now through week 7 and just looking statistically at where he's at, might as well just throw a fun question out there, you guys. Figured that's what Nat's Notes is for. Sometimes just gotta throw some topics out at you guys and see what you think. But yeah, that's all. I feel like that's what I have for this. Oh, and then one other point too. This is just a fun one, but also Good Morning Football, again, bringing the show up. Derek Barnes went on this morning as a special guest. Not sure if you guys saw this, but he went on and he said that Dan Campbell is probably the best coach that I've ever had. And he went on and said, it's one thing to respect your coaches, but it's another thing for them to respect us. He said for us as a team, like, he'll look at us and be like, hey, what's on your mind? Like, talk to me. What's going on? There is no other coach like him. Even when we lose, he doesn't skip a beat. I want to put my shoulder pads on 24/7 when I'm around him. That's why we play the way we play. I thought that was really powerful.
That's
people
awesome.
were sharing that everywhere. So I wanted to end my segment with that, because if that isn't a testament to why you want to run through a brick wall with this coach, and Bradford, you know him really well, like, that's it right there. And I could tell Derek was getting a little emotional too, talking to the host of that show, because you can just see, like, you want to play for this guy. So I think that's a good way to end this segment.
100%. No, I mean, that's just so cool when it's the players that have those glowing remarks to make about their coach. And we in Detroit are so lucky to have Dan Campbell as our coach. But the coach of this program is Bradford Banta. What's coming up in Coach's Corner?
Now that we got the personnel sorted, Nat, which we deeply, deeply appreciated. So, but how's everything working out on the field? So that's coming up next.
All right, Coach's Corner, tie a bow on it next. This episode of the Locked On Lions Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends at Mazda. That's right. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety picks than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same attention to how we craft every single model. And you can just feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. Mwah, chef's kiss. Okay, I added that part. But you make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth to handling and the intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every single detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda. Move and be moved. Isn't that just perfect? That's what sends us into Coach's Corner. I think they lined it up that way for you, Bradford Banta. Take it away.
I love it. Let's start talking about the offense first, right? So, hey, you had Ben Johnson over the last few years. Now we got Johnny Morton. Johnny has done an excellent job of marrying the run and the play action. And his use of Sonic and Knuckles to open up the play action, because you think of a game, think of Johnny possibly calling a game, and this may be reaching out there a little bit, but as a play, right? You got Act 1, you got Act 2, then you got Act 3, and then you have the conclusion. His Act 1 is basically establishing the run. And just let the hogs eat. Let them go. Let's see what we can get on the ground. And that's where Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery thrive in that type of atmosphere. And then Act 2, you start putting in the play action. And that's where Amon-Ra, Laporta, even J-Mo to a certain extent, trying to get those guys the ball. And then Act 3 is, if we get a shot over the top, we're going to take it. Now, defensive coordinators know this, and we're talking about, J-Mo not getting the touches, this, that, and the other. You're talking about the last few games that they've gone up against defenses that really don't allow the deep shot to occur. So they want you to move the chains, nickel and dime them down the field, and eventually, which the Lions have done a good job of, except versus Kansas City, they break one of those underneath shots. So I think Johnny has done a good job of utilizing all of the weapons that he has at his disposal. And then he is on the same page with Jared Goff whenever it comes to distribution of the ball. And I was thinking about this, and I was looking at their stats. So we're talking about third down percentage and getting it. So with the Detroit Lions, I think you can take that paper and kind of crumple it up and just throw it out the window. What I really want to look at is the fourth down conversion rates, because as long as you get a third and manageable, depending on field position, then the Lions are going to go for it. So, and that's what the players expect out of Dan. And I think that's what Dan expects out of the players, because he has trust. And in that, alluding to your segment in your notes, talking about Derek Barnes, is the players have complete trust in Dan and in the coaching staff to put them in the best position to make a play. And whenever you have that cohesion with the locker room and upstairs, so to speak, because in the Lions facility, that's where the coaches' offices are. Whenever you have that cohesion between staff and players, you have a very good culture here. So, and then we had already alluded to Gibbs and Montgomery, and I honestly think that Montgomery is going to be used a little bit more in the second half of the season whenever the weather starts to turn. And then defensively, I mean, how many times can we talk about it? It's just they played a fantastic game last week or this past Monday night. And to have a former player as your defensive coordinator and then understand to put players in position to have success, know what they can do, and know what buttons to press with each individual player. Look, it's a recipe for success. And for the amount of man-to-man that defense plays, and to know who they're going against quarterback-wise, that way, by playing that much man-to-man, you can run different stunts up front with the front seven, knowing that the DBs are going to have the receivers and possibly even the tight end covered. You can run 5 and possibly even 6-man stunts to get pressure on the quarterback. But fortunately, with the addition of Aleem McNeil back, now they're getting that inside pressure with just 4-man rushes. So that gives you just a chance to drop more people back in coverage, which gives you another and 2 extra hands to get your hands on a ball and possibly cause a turnover. And then, since it's near and dear to my heart, I was thinking about this the other day, talking about special teams. So they have greatly reduced the number of penalties on special teams, which has helped Detroit offensively and defensively as far as field position is concerned. And then, everybody's talking about, the K-ball and kicking it further and this, that, and the other. Well, with as much as Detroit goes for it on 4th down, does it really matter? So, but yeah, that's kind of my take in a nutshell, and just wrapping it up. And I know we're going to have another show on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to take Sunday off, and we're going to come back on Monday and Thursday. So looking forward to it.
No doubt about that. I know with the bye week, we don't have any predictions to make, so we'll tie a bow on it with our bye weekend plans. I know we got Natalie Kerwin, the resident Michigan State Spartan grad. I'm sure your bye week plans include a little Michigan State action. What do we got going?
Absolutely. That's the big plan. I feel like I don't have a ton going on, so I will be locked in at 7:30 on Saturday night, watching my Spartans hopefully get a win, but we shall see. Hasn't been looking great. Not a great track record this season, or the last few seasons, I shall say. And then Sunday, I got my Pistons home opener. So,
that's right. There we go.
Yeah, so I am, laying low, I guess, prepping for that and getting my notes together because it is a day game, so can't go too crazy staying up on Saturday night. So got to be down to Detroit early.
There you go. When you're a multi-sport star like Natalie Kerwin, you got football season, you got hoops. This is crossover season. You got it all going on. BB, what do we got? Who's Duke got this weekend, and are we counting on a win for the Shamrocks, right?
Yeah, we're looking. Yeah, the Shamrocks, Detroit Catholic Central. We're headed down. Ironically enough, it's a 7:30 kickoff at the Prep Bowl down at Ford Field on Saturday night, the same time that the Wolverines and Sparties are kicking off. So, we're going to be in our full CC regalia, and they're taking on MLK. And we look forward to a good game. And then Sunday, I'm actually headed down to Indianapolis to go watch the Colts and Titans play. So, so it's going to be a football weekend.
I love it. We'll have to get a report from you if the Colts are for real. I keep waiting for this fairy tale to end.
They are.
They are for real.
I've watched a little bit of film on them. They got things rolling in the right direction.
Danny Dimes.
Yeah, Indiana Jones now.
Resurging his career.
Yeah.
What's that?
I was just going to say, just got to get those quarterbacks out of New York and they thrive.
Somehow, some way. I know. Wow. Well, yeah, I'll want the full report then on how Sunday goes.
Okay. Will do.
I love it.
How about you, Jake? What are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, we got to get the host in there.
I was just getting ready to. I've got. Let's see. We've got Fan University. That's our college football show on Saturday morning. Big Texas A&M LSU Saturday nights. One of the big. I will not be there, but we'll have some Texas A&M guests on our show because that's big. And then let's see. What else we got? I think on Sunday I might have an off day. Look out. I don't know what I'm going to do with all my free time. No Morgantown trip, though. I'm not sure when the next one's going to be there, but we'll get it on the calendar. So for Bradford Banta, Natalie Kerwin. I'm Jake Riepma. Any final thoughts, right? I don't want to cut anybody off. We're 4 minutes over. We're good. Everybody enjoy the bye week. Have a wonderful day. Make sure you like today's video. Subscribe. Big thanks to Colton Pouncy for hopping on. As always, we appreciate you tuning in live or listening in the on-demand version. Freedom of wherever you podcast and on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time on the Locked On Lions Squad Show.